a political earthquake is shaking China. The Xie family is under investigation. The leader's closest allies are falling one after another. The Yu Menglong case is resurfacing, and reports about the rejuvenation practices of certain Chinese elites are beginning to crack. This story, as the program presents it, is broader and more complex than many imagined. The episode opens with the voice of Catherine Hu, host of Final War, who places the viewer before a series of developments considered decisive. The alleged figures who would have been behind the so-called Yu Menglong case, members of Xie's innermost loyal circle and his younger brother, Yuanping, have reportedly become the subjects of investigation as a result. According to the narrative, their downfall is only a matter. In parallel, the political earthquake related to the Xie family has intensified. For the narrator, this reflects the growing strength of the voices for justice, both inside China and abroad, which use the Yu Menglong case as a point of leverage. The central idea conveyed is that the pressure of public opinion, your voice, my voice, and the global outcry, is already pushing China's history into a new phase. The discourse presents this moment as one of the most important political transformations in the country in centuries. Hence the insistence on continuing to expose the truth, spreading it, and stopping the abuses, with an explicit call to share the content after watching the video. From that general framework, the narration introduces a twist. The question of why so many celebrities linked to the Yu Menglong case have suddenly appeared looking much younger. Now, it is suggested there may be an explanation. In the final part of the program, there is an announcement about exposing a practice that, according to the narrative, is spreading among certain elites, something presented as even more disturbing than blood replacement. The main accusation focuses on the alleged extraction of bone marrow from babies kept in captivity. Before reaching this point, the episode returns to the political chessboard of Beijing with a key question. Where are Cai Qi and Wang Xiaohong? Cai Qi, described as an enforcer, gatekeeper, and head of the general office, was reportedly last seen on November 8th. On that trip, they are said to have visited together the Yenying Family Memorial Hall, a symbolic gesture that evoked the historical role of the Wei clan. However, the next day, when Xie appeared at the opening ceremony of National Games in Guangzhou, Cai Qi was no longer there. In his place, according to official images, stood General Zhang Yusa, a figure who, from that moment on, Cai reportedly disappeared completely from the public scene. In the context of the Chinese political system, for the head of Xie's political office to break protocol in the middle of an affair. After 11 days of absence and a growing wave of questions inside and outside the country, Cai finally reappeared. On November 20th, the Communist Party held a symposium in the Great Hall of the People to commemorate the 110th anniversary of former leader Hu Yaobang's birth. Both Xie and Cai Qi were present. Does that joint appearance mean that Cai was never in trouble? The program responds cautiously. Not so fast. The piece then shifts its focus to the disappearance of another key figure, Wang Xiaohong. If Cai's absence was unsettling, Wang's temporary disappearance was presented as even more decisive. Wang controls the police, the state security system, counter-espionage operations. In short, he controls a substantial part of the infrastructure through which a modern authoritarian system according to the program, on November 9th, Wang reported. After that, there was silence. For 9 days, one additional detail is mentioned. The official website of the Ministry of Public Security reportedly did not record his presence. Updates are said to have stopped as of November 8th. After 8 days of public absence, Wang Xiaohong reportedly reappeared discreetly at the Central Conference on Governing the Country. In the footage, he is seen in the audience, with his head lowered and taking notes. According to the program's analysis, what stands out, both of them usually lead that type of meeting, with Xie as chairman of the... The fact that neither of the two attended, the program emphasizes, would have great political significance. Does Wang's reappearance mean that his situation is resolved? The program maintains the opposite. His current position is described as high risk. During the period in which Wang was missing, specifically on November 15th, the authorities announced the death of Dong Yijun, deputy chief of Beijing police. According to the official version, Dong had died weeks earlier, on October 21st. In the context of the Chinese system, such a delay in communicating the death of an official of that rank is presented as a warning sign. The narration also highlights another fact. October 21st, the date of Dong's death, coincided exactly with the second day of the fourth plenum of the Central Committee, a particularly sensitive moment in the political calendar. The question being asked is inevitable. Was Dong's death in some way connected to what was happening at the plenum? The narrative maintains that the Yu Menglong case provided the party elders with a point of entry because, it is claimed, the central figures behind that crime were precisely Wang Xiaohong and Cai. If someone wanted to weaken the core of Xi's political team, the most effective route would be to start with Wang. Although his formal rank is lower, with Wang at the level of state councillor and Cai as a member of the Politburo Standing Committee, his functional position is considered. His fall would theoretically create less noise and more impact. Within that framework, the program states that it was predictable that party veterans would turn to Dong Yijun, and if ultimately Wang were to be brought down, it is asserted that the collapse of the political and administrative structure that supported Xie would already be underway. In that scenario, Xie would no longer be facing a simple transition of power. According to reliable sources inside Beijing, cited by the program, Wang's principal assistant Dong Yun had been suspected of helping to cover up the truth of the Yu Menglong. His sudden death during the criminal investigation reportedly led to both Wang Xiaohong and Cai being required to assist. From that point of view, their striking disappearances from the public scene would be framed within that process. the investigation would still be open and there would be no final conclusion. Dong Yun died on October 21st. At the same time, it is mentioned that another important figure related to the Yuanlong case, Shei's younger brother, Shi Yuanping, had been identified. At this point, a fundamental question arises. If Cai Qi and Wang Xiaohong are already under scrutiny, why can they still appear at public events? The explanation offered by the narrator refers back to something that, she indicates, has been described in previous episodes. It is the way in which the current central management team operates. This group continues to place Shay, Cai, and Wang on the public stage not to display real power, but to maintain appearances, project confidence, and confuse. What is being sought, the program claims, is time. Time to manage a controlled transition in which the faction linked to Shay gradually withdraws. The main fear is to avoid the Communist Party's ship from sinking suddenly, as happened with the Soviet Union. According to this reading, the army has paid a high price during the last year to weaken Shay's position. More than half of the top military commanders have been removed, with a severe impact on morale and combat capacity. The party veterans consider that a new purge campaign as extensive as the one Therefore, a surgical approach would have been adopted. The objective is to dismantle Shay's network within the party and the state step by step. However, when it comes to the Shay family, the narrative maintains that the elders have shown with a single blow, it is claimed, they cut the family's political succession line. After the fourth plenum in October, the Kan region reportedly became the Xian, known in ancient times as Chang'an, is described as the city at the geographical center of China. It is also the homeland of Shi Zhongxun, Shay's father, and the place where, for decades, this region functioned as the political base of the Shay family. Shay is said to regard Shani province as the true dragon vein of China, symbolically linked to the Qinling Mountains. Because of that symbolism, Xian would have become a kind of spiritual marker of the family's power. However, that so-called dragon vein was cut abruptly. Within a matter of months, 3 high-ranking officials from Shanghai, described as the guardians of the dragon vein of the Shay family, reportedly fell almost at the same time. One was taken away by agents of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, the CCDI, while he was praying. Another reportedly fell from a building, according to A third is allegedly detained or may no longer be alive. The common element attributed to the 3 is their direct participation in the construction or management of the mausoleum of Shizhonggun. The narration maintains that this was not a chain of accidental collapses, but a simultaneous and systematic operation aimed at the Within this mosaic, the title of Guardian of the Dragon Vein fits precisely with Fan Hong Wei. On November 6th, Australian-based commentator four of his secretaries were reportedly arrested with him, and the group was immediately taken to Tiananmen. The CCDI confirmed the case on November 7th. According to the same source, a special investigation team on the night of his detention, disciplinary inspectors in both Shani and Xi'an reportedly mobilized to secure control over individuals considered key. The next day, a series of arrests began that, according to the program, another important figure is His fall was reportedly almost simultaneous. Various sources point out that he suddenly disappeared, with some rumors. In any case, multiple channels reportedly agree the detention of Jing Junhai would mark another turning point. On November 11th, several independent sources, including political channels in Shani, contacts in the CCDI, and investigative reporters, reportedly converged on the same message. A former provincial-level party secretary had been taken into custody and transferred to a CC. Shortly afterward, the name emerged. It was Jing Junhai. The leaks did not stop there. Researchers consulted reportedly indicated that Jing's case was part of the first wave of a deeper campaign. In other words, the process had already reached the level of central state power. Jing was not just any provincial leader. What would have brought him closer to Xi's inner circle of trust was his management as propaganda chief of Shanxi, especially in connection with the major expansion of the Shizhonggun Memorial Site, an ecological memorial park of more than 6,600 hectares, the so-called Dragon Vein project. It was described as an enormous complex, equivalent, according to local. From that project, an entire network of protectors of the Dragon Vein would have been built. That same network, according to the narration, is Jing's detention raises a clear question. If even the architects of Xi's symbolic power are no longer safe, how deep does this political earthquake really go? The shock in Cannes reportedly was not limited to local officials. As the investigations went deeper, one name began to appear again and again. That name was Yuanping. According to multiple cited sources, the trigger For this whole chain of reactions was Yao Yijun, propaganda chief of Xi'an, who controlled some of the city's most profitable cultural. Between 2017 and 2021, Yao reportedly supervised the expansions of the Kujiang cultural and tourism empire, which includes projects such as the Eternal City of the Great Tang Dynasty, the Wild Goose Pagoda. In 2019, Yao made a decision that raised questions in political. He approved the bailout through a purchase worth 1,186,000,000 yuan, about 176 million United States. For many observers, this was not simply an investment, but it meant using a state-owned company and public resources to plug the financial holes of a privately owned conglomerate. At the beginning of 2025, Yao was detained. According to the narrative, at first he displayed a defiant and confident attitude, convinced that nobody could touch him. However, when a central inspection team reopened his file, the situation changed and Yao began to cooperate, revealing names. The name that, according to these leaks, was repeated in almost all asset transfers, fund transfer orders, and sensitive instructions was that of Yu reportedly kept meticulous records of WeChat messages, financial directives, and currency exchange documents that implicated both Yuan. The numbers outlined are very large. Allegedly, 60% of Yao's illicit profits went to Yuanping, 20% went to Feng Hong. In a single operation, Yao reportedly transferred 180 million Hong Kong dollars. Applying the same percentage distribution, King Yuanping could have received from that single transaction more than 540 million Hong Kong dollars, around 70.2. And according to the narration, that would be only one example among many. Soon, reports surfaced about the detention of 3 chairmen of large state-owned enterprises, including the head of the China State Shipbuilding Corporation. Each of these cases would again point toward Yuanping. Within the system, Yuanping is described as Prince Yuan, a title that reflects his enormous influence over Shay. Aligning one's career with him would have been an accelerated. In the later years of Shay's rule, Yuanping reported his ability to exert influence would extend to almost every sphere, to the point of acquiring an authority close to royal above entire institutions. In this context, the political earthquake in Shanxi is interpreted as a precision. The impact would have hit the deepest roots of his power and would have cut the family's dragon vein. Other cited information. The fall of Fan Hongwei left a power vacuum at the very heart of Shay's home province. In a system that does not tolerate empty spaces, the logical question was, who would take his place? A new and unexpected name quickly emerged as the favorite. That name was Hu Haifeng, Vice Minister of Civil Affairs and son of former Communist Party General Secretary. According to various political channels, Hu Haifeng is being considered for 2 positions at once. Party Secretary. If this appointment is confirmed, it would represent a very significant symbolic reversal in Chinese elite politics since Xi came to power. According to the program's interpretation, it would mean that the reformist and pro-opening bloc the narrative adds that the tremors have not been limited to Shanghai, but have also spread to Shenzhen, another traditional stronghold of the Xi family. Shenzhen is not only the technological capital of China. For the Xi family, it is part of their personal history. Decades ago, when Xi Zhongxun was politically sidelined during the Deng Xiaohong era, it was the Yan Ying family, influential in Guangdong politics, that took him in. He spent the rest of his life there, in a kind of silent confinement. The tensions accumulated during those years between the Xi and Dong family networks have endured across generations. Therefore, when reports emerged that Feng Zhonghua, an ally of Yu Jingsheng, a former member of the Politburo Standing Committee, two of Xi's deepest power bases, Shanxi and Shenzhen, would pass into the hands of families perceived as historical rivals or opponents. The political message drawn from this is that China's power landscape is entering a phase of complete generational handover, a comprehensive. It is the connection with another mystery, the allegedly rejuvenated appearance of numerous. From this point forward, the narration warns that the content may be especially disturbing. The testimony is presented of an informant who claims to have worked undercover in an online fraud compound in Southeast Asia. According to his account, women over 40 years of age, victims of human trafficking and taken to these facilities, would not only be forced to participate. The babies born from these pregnancies would be called piglets in the operator's internal jargon. The witness's account maintains that, once born, bone marrow material would be extracted from these babies to produce regenerative stem cells, which would then be turned into extremely expensive substances marketed as anti-aging treatments. The informant, who presents himself as an anti-fraud activist, appears with his face covered for security reasons and explains that he must avoid. The program clarifies that, at that time, it does not have independent means to verify all of this information and therefore reproduces the testimony in essence. The narrative describes how women who worked in nightlife venues would be the most likely to be drawn into these foreign compounds. According to the description, 2 or even 3 embryos at a time would be implanted in these women, with the aim of maximizing the number of births. Each baby, once born, would reportedly be sold to biotechnology parks or life science institutes. The witness states that a piglet could reach an approximate value of 3 million yuan, and that, in the case, the babies would be grouped in special rooms, not left on the floor, but kept in glass cases, as if they were laboratory animals. They would be fed there and would only be taken out briefly when staff cleaned the room. The crucial part of the testimony focuses on the moment when the baby. At that point, according to the description, technicians would access the spinal area with a small tool, make an opening, and insert a needle to extract the fluid. In this way, they would obtain the component they call the growth factor, which would later be used to cultivate regenerative stem cells. These cells would then be infused intravenously into clients, with the promise of giving them a younger appearance. The informant shows what he presents as real advertisements from a Cambodia Life Sciences Institute, where overnight rejuvenation is promised, and where it is even suggested that certain treatments could extend life expectancy up to 120 years. According to the witness, a single bone marrow extraction from one child could be refined into 3 vials of each vial would be sold on the market for about 5 million yuan, so that one extraction round every 6 months would generate 15 million yuan. These products would be aimed almost exclusively at celebrities and very wealthy individuals. The program shows images of the website of that institute, where it is stated that its headquarters are in Cambodia, but the site offers only 2 languages, simplified Chinese. On its official Facebook page, the listed address corresponds to the headquarters of the Prince Group on Diamond Island in Phnom Penh. In the corporate section of the site, the main service displayed was neonatal stem cell storage. Among its 6 main sections, the Hunan Province Cell Preparation Center and the Hunan Province Tissue and Cell Bank were highlighted. The 4 qualification certificates shown on the page, according to the archive material presented by the program, had reportedly been issued by Chinese bodies, including the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Ministry of Finance, and local authorities